So Claude 3.7 Sonnet just dropped, and in this video, I'm going to show you how is it helpful in the investment due diligence workflow. So for the last 24 hours, I've been going through a deep dive of everything I can find on Claude 3.7 Sonnet, as well as trying it out and doing a proper test run against OpenAI's latest models. So O3 Mini, O1, O1 Pro. So I'm going to condense all of that in this video to show you if you're in the PE space, if you're a hedge fund, if you're a VC, managing consultant, anybody who does primary market research as part of your job, this video is going to be helpful for you. So for those of you who don't know, I'm James Nguyen. I'm the CEO and founder of Inflection Transcribe, and we've been in the investment due diligence space since 2019, building AI workflows with humans in the loop. So our clients include the biggest expert networks in the world, as well as multi-billion-dollar organizations in the finance space and the data platforms as well. So let's get straight to it. Claude 3.7 Sonnet dropped on the 25th of February. Now, there's going to be a lot of different videos that are going to go out here and do a proper technical deep dive. That's not the purpose of this video. I just want to show you how you can use it if you're in investment due diligence. First thing is to note at a high level, it says it is the most intelligent model to date, and it's the first hybrid reasoning model. So Dario Amodei 1 month ago came out and said that he doesn't believe that there should be a delineation between models that reason and models that essentially accomplish tasks, or more predictive models. He believes they're the same thing. And so this is what they're aiming to do. Instead of having, like OpenAI has, an O1 model, O3 Mini model, as well as a GPT-4o model, Anthropic have combined them together. Now, here's a quick snapshot. Sam Altman has already flagged in the next series, right? In the GPT-5, it will integrate these things together. So the main thing you have to think about here is this idea that it is both an ordinary LLM, i.e. predictive text, as well as a reasoning model. The only difference is it can think for longer before answering. So think about this as a very intelligent analyst who is being very thoughtful before they answer a question. We're going to find out a little bit later whether this is actually going to be a leading indicator of how thoughtful the answer is, but that's what we're hypothesizing, and the general trend we're seeing in the market. It's called test time compute. So how much time is the model using to think before it actually answers a question? That's the main thing for you to know about 3.7 Sonnet. Now I'm going to show you a couple of the snapshots of the different benchmarks. Again, take this with a grain of salt, because all the times we're looking at benchmarks, generally speaking, they're being published by the actual companies that are dropping a new model. But this is a software engineering benchmark. You can see here OpenAI's O1, OpenAI's O3 Mini High, DeepSeek's R1, and Sonnet. They're all, give or take, performing around the 49%. Claude 3.7 Sonnet is performing almost 20% higher than that, with the customized scaffolding. Customized scaffolding, essentially, is fine-tuning more curated ways of chain of thought, which is the thinking process, right? So being able to create some frameworks around that, they were able to see almost 20%. Now, the next benchmark is around the agentic tool use. So imagine it's connected to a retail API, i.e. e-commerce, or an airline API, i.e. booking travel. How accurately and how competently was Claude 3.7 Sonnet able to accomplish a task? Now, that might not seem directly relevant to the investment workflow. However, it is showing that there is a really key trend towards agentic workflows. And as we see these improvements, just again, we're seeing what? Close to 6% increase from 3.5 to 3.7. And there's a couple things to keep in mind here, that these are the sorts of directions of improvement we're seeing for agents. Now, imagine agents in the investment due diligence workflow that are able to go out and do research on different parts of the due diligence workflow, i.e. looking at competitors separately from looking at market sizing, separately from looking at EBITDA margin, separately from looking at suppliers, looking at general TAM. There's all these different things that once agents are able to accurately go out, use tools and use them competently, then we're going to start to see a lot of what we would therefore term agentic workflows, right? Agents working together equal agentic workflows. So the last thing here I'm just going to quickly touch on is, again, the general benchmark, which is based around whether it's maths, science. Claude 3.7 Sonnet is showing to be higher than the majority of them, including Grok 3 Beta that just dropped with their extended thinking. Now, I want to draw your attention here, 64K extended thinking. What this means is the output length. Okay, so how long the answers can be in Claude 3.7 Sonnet is 64,000 tokens. That means creating research reports. That means creating deep dives. Suddenly, it's able to write a lot longer output than previously. Claude here literally says ability to think for longer, thus answering tougher questions. we've decided to give it a visible thought process. So we're going to see it later. We're going to be able to see how Claude thinks through a process. The last thing is from Claude 3.7 system card. From here, okay, from the system card, it's important to note here that the cutoff date is October 2024. Now, what that means is it is not connected to the internet. The information is not real time. That's one of the drawbacks of Claude. Let's go in and let's get straight into a demo of how are we using this today. So the first thing is in your Claude account, you're gonna have to use a paid account. It's pre-selected as well as thinking mode pre-selected to normal. Now, if you want to apply extended thinking, that's when you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna click extended thinking. So for the sake of this demo, I wanted to take some general context. So a couple things to keep in mind, right? Claude is not connected to the internet. Now, as I promised, this is Dario, the CEO of Anthropic, explaining why that is the case.
Access to the web.
Access to the web. So yeah, that is an area that we're working on and is going to come relatively soon. I think one thing to understand about Anthropic is, the majority of our business is enterprise focused. And so often enterprise focused things get prioritized first. Web is more on the consumer side of things, but we've been working on it for a while. We have some ideas that we think are different from what other model providers have done. And so, I'm not going to give an exact date, but that's coming very soon. We understand the
So Dario said it is coming soon. So there's two things to note from that. Number one, he says that he believes that web search is mainly based around consumer applications or consumer use cases, less so enterprise, which I agree with, and potentially for the investment due diligence space, I disagree with, right? Because we saw from previous videos how powerful web search is in terms of actually creating a really comprehensive preliminary research on an industry or a company, right? So that's the first thing. But then the second thing here is to understand that what are the enterprise use cases that Anthropic are focusing on? So generally speaking, Claude is based around internal documents, right? So if you think about an enterprise use case, you're focusing on internal knowledge bases, documents you only have internally. So that is a really important thing to note off the bat, right? So 3.7, even though it is purported to be smarter than 3.5, it's purported to have chain of thought. It shows exactly how it's thinking. It's not connected to any sources outside what you upload. So yes, maybe there is advantages there from a security point of view, but it also then changes the onus onto the user of actually having good data. So that comes back to it. Good qualitative data or a good and clean data room is going to be unbelievably important here if you want to get use out of Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Okay, so for the sake of this demo, what I've gone ahead and done, given that we can't research a company online, just given that its knowledge base is based on October 2024. Now, I'm sure you could research a number of companies there, but in terms of real-time information, real-time news, I didn't think it would be as helpful. So we're going to take an example here. We're just going to take a public earnings call from a public company. We're going to use Teleperformance, which is an outsourcing company, and we're going to find a presentation that they have online. You can see here, November 26, 2024. So that's after the cutoff date. And this is related to a recent M&A, right? An M&A announcement that there is a transcript for as well, but this specifically is just a public pitch deck. So I'm going to go and do a side-by-side of what can Claude 3.7 Sonnet do here. So if you have seen any of our previous videos, you'll know that the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to create a prompt. Okay, so we're going to use the prompt generator that we've created internally. You can notice here, if you're paying attention, this is a ChatGPT prompt generator. We've built the same in Claude as well. I'm using this for the sake of efficiency. So it's not a like for like, but I'm just going to quickly create something. So you are an investment analyst. I'm uploading an M&A deck from a company called Teleperformance. Please perform a deep dive analysis on everything. On all the important details. Consider in investment due diligence. Okay, so take note here. Obviously, this prompt is very rudimentary. We're going to put it in here. It's going to create a full prompt. I'm going to save everybody some time and go ahead and take the prompt that has been prepared earlier and then show you how we're going to put it in. So we're going to go through here. It's going to be thinking it thought for 17 seconds. I'm going to just quickly walk through the chain of thought of how it actually thought through the problem here. This is one of the things Anthropic have really made a conscious effort about is transparency here. So they wanted to include all the different thinking steps, which to be fair, at this stage is now table stakes. OpenAI does it, DeepSeek started with it, Grok starts with it. Anthropic purports that they don't filter any of these things, right? And so they're not trying to change what is here because sometimes the chain of thought is contradictory. It might say something, but the output will contradict its thought process. But this gives you a good idea of how it's thinking through these concepts. So you can see here, key financial metrics, it's looking through it. It's doing an overview and context. It's thoroughly analyzing it. And it's going through and providing all the information, and then it's going to summarize something, okay? So this is the output. Take note here, it thought for 17 seconds, okay? 17 seconds. So it looks like a fairly decent output, like it's a fairly straightforward summary from what you would expect nowadays from LLMs. A couple of notes here is this is a somewhat longer output. Remember the 64K token. I've tested it in other chats and it can go a hell of a lot longer than this. It could just be writing for minutes at a time. So that is that. I'm going to show you a side-by-side though with ChatGPT. Take note, remember these things, okay? The overview, the context, look at the depth here. Look at the detail of these dot points. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up ChatGPT. So for likeliness, we have used the exact same prompt. Okay, so important to note, again, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I'm using O1 and not O1 Pro because O1 Pro, you cannot upload files and attachments as of right now. Exact same prompt, put in the exact same file. Here, it thought for 13 seconds, fairly comparable, but keep those numbers in mind as we look later on. Okay, so it thought for 13 seconds. Now, if we're comparing the output, right, comparing the overview and the context, you can see here that the overview from my view, that I'm looking at it looks like 3.7 Sonnet is a little bit more detailed. So in terms of the financial analysis, this here missed the fact that it was financed through debt, which we can see in the 3.7 Sonnet. You can see that the dot points for O1 are somewhat brief. Yeah, I would say they're fairly comparable in structure. Obviously, each model chose to include things that the others didn't. So we do talk about leverage and debt here and risk and factors. So there is a couple things that Claude was able to do that O1 chose not to do, but vice versa. So now let's have a look at O3. We're going to do the exact same thing and we're going to apply it to O3. So now let's look at the quality of O3's output. Again, these are fairly minor deviations in terms of how long it reasoned for. So you can see here, it reasoned for 21 seconds. You can have a read through of, the chain of thought. I personally haven't spent too much time going through the depths of it. Claude have openly said that they haven't added character training. So this is more anthropomorphized through OpenAI. So where it says I and giving a personal identity to the actual model versus Claude that seems somewhat a little bit more factual. But anyway, it's 21 seconds here. If we go through and we actually check this out, right? You can see here immediately with the overview and context, you can see that the dot points are more in depth. It's ticking off pretty similar to all the same points as mentioned in Claude. Language line solutions here, you can see here, this is mentioned in Claude. Now we go to financial analysis. Remember what we spoke in the O1 comparison, it was missing the idea of being financed fully through debt, right? And you can see here, O3 mini high is saying that it's financed through debt. So you can see here, this is already a better performance than O1. I would say if I'm ranking it very slightly, I would have said 3.7 Sonnet beat O1 very slightly, although there were some aspects of O1's writing that I thought was more comprehensive. But for me here, O3 Mini, if you're just scrolling through this in terms of comprehensiveness as well as speed, O3 Mini for me outperforms Claude 3.7 Sonnet. That was a like for like when we uploaded a PDF. But I want to compare this against O1 Pro, so we can't yet upload a PDF to O1 Pro. But what we can do, which is a little bit of a hack, is we can upload directly into the chat of O1 Pro. So if we open up a new O1 Pro and we take a different source, right, we can go ahead and upload something in the chat. Now, that means if we can upload text, we can put it just in the prompt. We're going to go back over here and we're going to take another public event from Teleperformance. So we can show something fairly comparable here. Okay, we're going to take the Q3 2024 earnings call. It's public information. We're going to upload this in Claude 3.7 Sonnet and do the exact same thing. So I've already done this. I've uploaded, I've created a meta prompt as we normally do. I've uploaded the transcript of the Teleperformance Q3 2024 earnings call. And this is what comes out from Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Now, take a note of here, all right? 28 seconds of thinking, 28 seconds versus 17 seconds. So it's obviously thought through a number of different things, right? I'll approach this analysis systematically. Now, it does anthropomorphize it a little bit, but again, the quintessential Claude character or Claude personality is what Anthropic shared that it hasn't yet done. So expect that to change over time. You can see here, you can go through how it's really thinking through this process. I've just said, take an earnings call, summarize it into the key ideas here, okay? So this is what we're looking at from Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Fairly comprehensive. It's identifying key trends, everything here, okay? So 9-month performance, regional performance. Okay, cool. It goes through a good amount of information across the board. So we're going to scroll all the way down. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing in O1 Pro. Okay, let's look at the overview. You can look at the length of the dot points, what it's including, what level of detail. So just imagine as an analyst, if you're doing a preliminary research or you're uploading some qualitative information, these are the sorts of things to get a quick idea of how much context do you actually want, how much detail do you actually want, okay? So this is Claude. Now I'm going to show you what happens in O1. Take into consideration the prompt, the exact same prompt, okay? The only difference here is because we can't upload a file into O1 Pro, we can go ahead and upload the transcript, okay? Or any text file. And that's why textual data is really, really important. But remember, the quality of the data is the quality of the output. So that's why investing in good qualitative data in general, whether it's transcripts, whether it's reports, anything, having those fact checked, making sure what you're feeding the AI is important. So now we're actually going to feed that in, okay? This is the exact same context, exact same prompt, everything as Claude 3.7 Sonnet. The only difference is now we're using O1 Pro. Right now, what we can publicly access from Claude and what we can publicly access from ChatGPT. Claude Sonnet 3.7 thought for 28 seconds. O1 Pro thought for 1 minute and 41 seconds. That's more than 3 times as long. So let's see. You can already see the level of detail across here with the dot points. If we're comparing a like for like, the financial performance, company overviews, okay? We can see in Claude, we're very brief Q3 dot points, right? We're talking 5-6 words per dot point. Here, very thoughtful dot points, okay? We're talking about percentage growth year on year, okay? That's a nuance that wasn't mentioned. And then it talks about how it was aided. You can just see in this snapshot of the first section, we're seeing a lot more detail here. Now, my preference and what I find when I'm using these workflows is I much prefer more detail that we can strip down rather than less detail to work us way up, right? Top down for me works way better than bottom up because it's a lot harder to add more detail if the large language model doesn't already have it as context or doesn't believe it is worthwhile. But if you have a long output, it's very easy to just say summarize it, right? That's what I find. So you can see here, O1 Pro thinking 3 times as long, but it's able to produce this level of output. We're talking one resource right now. We're just talking an earnings call or separately. Before we were talking about a public deck, right, related to an M&A deal. Now, imagine we're uploading multiple documents here. That's what Anthropic are positioning themselves as their differentiation, right? Internal knowledge bases, point of difference is what are the use cases for enterprise? But when we're actually seeing this at the very start, this becomes a trade-off, okay? If you want to use O1 Pro, maybe you have a smaller knowledge base that you're working on. Maybe it's 1 or 2 documents. Maybe they're only textual documents. You can use something like O1 Pro. Now, O3 Mini High, you can go ahead and you can upload multiple things. You also have the same thing in ChatGPT where you can go ahead and you can create different projects so you can add multiple files there as context. So what I'm seeing here is if you're going to use just a smaller knowledge base that you can actually upload via just text, O1 Pro right now for investment due diligence is still the most accurate, the most detailed, the most in-depth. Now, just think about this, right? O1 Pro is not O3. O3 is the model being used in deep research. Now, ChatGPT is able to be connected to the internet. Claude said that's coming soon. ChatGPT has access to O3 via deep research or O1 Pro that is already beating Claude 3.7 Sonnet. But here is the kicker. There are rumors that Claude have a much stronger model than O3. Now, if you're looking at the naming convention, Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Now, that implies that Claude 4 Sonnet is just around the corner. As of right now, my key takeaways are this. Claude Sonnet 3.7 for me outperformed O1 and that was very minorly. There's a lot more use case if I want to just create a Claude project based on a specific company or industry I'm doing DD on and uploading a lot of context there. It's a lot neater, it's a lot faster. But I did find that O3 Mini High, and then obviously O1 Pro outperformed Claude Sonnet 3.7 specifically for investment due diligence, right? So how can we then integrate it in a preliminary research workflow? I'm going to talk more about how I use these two things together, because I have been using Claude 3.7 Sonnet after using deep research, after using O1 Pro for a number of different workflows. But that's another video. The longer context window has been really helpful. You can see it here. It's already outputting context that is way longer than anything Claude 3.5 has ever done before. How I see this really evolving is creating data rooms in Claude 3.7 or Claude 4 because of that experience and that working really, really fluently. And then using ChatGPT and the OpenAI models for the more preliminary research. So creating context and finding research with OpenAI, and then using Claude as more of a data room, an ability to pass through, synthesize large amounts of information, of qualitative data very, very quickly. As of right now, ChatGPT, O1 Pro, as well as deep research are the models to beat. I'm still using it the most in my investment due diligence workflows, everybody that I am helping, and our customers and clients as well. That's that. If you're interested in understanding more about what we do in terms of human in the loop and AI workflows specific to the investment due diligence space, head to inflection.ai and you can check out more there. And if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to like, subscribe, drop a comment as well in terms of what are the different things that you want to learn more about in terms of investment due diligence. I'll see you next time on the next video, and yeah, it's an exciting time.